Well, I'm here with Dr. Paul Savage from MDLifespan.com. Today, we're talking about reversing the fire within. We're going to talk about plasma exchange protocols and how they extinguish inflammation, restore vitality. Dr. Paul, thanks so much for joining us here. Let's start with the hidden sources of chronic inflammation that you see in your patients.
Sure. David, thanks for having me on the show. I'm quite a fan, and it's actually quite an honor to be here on this podcast with you. I've been a physician for 40 years, so I started practicing in the mid 80s. And I've been able to watch things change over the last 40 years. I've been in the health and wellness space for 30 years. So like by the late 90s, I had switched from emergency medicine and toxicology over to wellness and integrative health, the functional medicine that we both adore and tout to everyone all the time. Back 40 years ago, inflammation, we've actually started just first learning how to measure it because we didn't have all these tests like we have now. I remember when CRP, which was the first inflammatory marker that came out of the market, we're like, wow, this is great for heart disease. And it just wasn't very common. And then as you've been watching the decades go past, you see more and more about chronic inflammation because there's more and more chronic inflammation. I mean, it's just becoming better known and better seen. It's literally becoming more. I mean, cancer rates in the 50-year-olds are up. Autoimmune diseases continue to go up. I mean, obesity goes up, and these are all chronic inflammatory diseases. Just looking at those and how they're accelerating, we know that inflammation is changing. What I'm here to tell you today is it's completely changed from what it used to be 40 years ago, the causes of inflammation. And today, I can assure you, with the 500 patients that we've done data and done treatments on, it's the toxins. 99.9% now. Toxins are driving the bus.
Yeah, I mean, it's really the biggest difference in our society is the amount of environmental toxins that we're being exposed to. I mean, humans have been exposed to things like molds and mycotoxins for a long time, but microplastics are new. Glyphosate, obviously, over the last 30 years. There's so many different toxins, different metals, like as far as just the overall load of exposure. All your different solvents, your flame retardants, things like that. We're just being bombarded with these things.
You know that the United States is one of the top 3 most toxic countries in the world, right behind the Middle East, and then Russia, China, as kind of one area, and then the United States and Canada follow right afterwards. And in our environment now, and it depends on which numbers and who you're listening to, but it's well over 100,000 different toxins. It's probably closer to 200,000 different toxins, and we can measure only a couple thousand.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's key. I always say, really the equation of health is, in a sense, chronic disease builds up when your overall toxic load and your accumulated deficiencies, whether that's nutritional deficiencies or sleep deficiencies or movement deficiencies, when that overloads your resilience factor, your ability to adapt to stressors. And in our society today, so if you're increasing toxins, that's one end of that equation that's just putting more stress on your ability to adapt. And, in our society today, people are not adapting well, right? And this is why we have such chronic disease. I always say autoimmunity, cancer, all these things are adaptive physiology. We're just unfortunately not adapting well, right? And that's the big key here. And so we've got this issue, obviously, with toxicity. Can you explain how therapeutic plasma exchange works and what makes it different from other detox approaches like chelation or things like that I'm really a big fan of, like intermittent fasting, for example?
Yeah. Well, can I take one brief second? I just want to kind of drive the point home about how the toxins have changed. If we did a study 3 years ago in Chicago, and we looked at 300 people who were healthy between the age of 45 and 65, not on medications, consider themselves fit and healthy, and we measured their toxin levels. And out of 100, the average number of toxin in healthy people that were over what we call the 75% range of NHANES was 13.2 per person average. Now, if there's 100,000...
What did that mean, 13.2?
So out of 100 toxins that we tested, on average, they had 13
high levels of 13.2
that were in the high critical ranges.
Yeah.
Okay. But since we only measured 100 and there's over 100,000 toxins, we're
Mm,
really talking about 13,000 toxins in healthy people
yeah.
at the high critical levels. I really want to get that point across to people, because people like, oh, I have a half a dozen toxins times 1,000, because we're only measuring a small portion of it.
Yeah.
So, let's talk about manners of detox, because they're effective, but the problem is that it's changed, because 30 years ago, when I had toxic people and I was measuring toxins back then, and I was treating people with they only had one or two different types. They had this heavy metal, they had that pesticide, they had this volatile chemical, but they didn't have what we have now, which is a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's one of the things
Yep.
that changed, because all these therapies that we used to use, sauna therapy, intermittent fasting, chelation, binders, all of the exercise, all of these things worked well back then. But the problem is, now we have so many different toxins. There's just none of those patterns that we just talked about work on every toxin. They just work on a select few. And I do mean a select few. Like, people are aware that, heavy metals can be chelated out. But what they're not aware of is, if you look at all the chelators together, that only covers about 6 to 7 of the heavy metals. All the other ones, like aluminum and all these other ones, they're not able to be chelated out. Same thing with binders. About a third of the mold toxins can be bound, and the other 2/3 aren't. And then you have the saunas. Anything that's able to be put into sweat, can come out through the sauna. But a lot of these toxins are fat soluble, and so they don't come out necessarily as well with sauna. So that's one of the problems today. Is it's harder to get their toxin levels down with the traditional ways that we've used, because they're not universal and they're not effective on every type of toxin. Now, plasma exchange has been around for 50 years. Matter of fact, I used to use it in the emergency room with overdoses, because that's one of the things that it was used for, is getting out acute toxicity. So if somebody, back then we didn't have Narcan, so, heroin overdoses, we do plasma exchange. We had a drug called Digitalis. Luckily, that's not on the market anymore. And we used to have people come in Digitalis overdose. And you do a plasma exchange. A plasma exchange is a process. It's kind of like a plasma donation. You get hooked up to a machine, your blood comes out, the machine separates your blood into the liquid part, which is the plasma, and the cellular part, which is the solid. And in this case, we throw the plasma away and we give you back your cells with a replacement fluid. So it's an oil change, is what it is. Remember the old days? You used to get the car up on the skids and drain the oil out of the bottom, and then put the plug back in and put some new oil in the top of the car, and then run it around the block for about 4 weeks, and you bring it back and you change the oil again. This time it's not quite so dirty as it was the first time, and then you keep doing that time and time. Then this is what you did with old cars when you inherited them.
Hmm.
First thing you did was just this oil change every 3 to 4 weeks until the oil ran clear. That's exactly what plasma exchange is. So this process isn't just done once, it's done in a series of them, because every time that you do a plasma exchange, you get out some of the toxins, and then you wait a while, let the toxins re-equilibrate, and you go back and take it out again. So that's what plasma exchange is. It's a very safe procedure. I mean, the adverse reaction rates are minimum, and they're generally things like somebody said they ate before, that they didn't eat, or sorry, they said they ate, but they didn't, because you have to eat before this procedure, because we're taking out your plasma, and that means we're taking out everything in the plasma, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and we're throwing it away. That's what makes plasma exchange a little different than some of the other things that you might hear about, that has to do with filtering the blood, because this isn't filtering your blood. This is literally taking it, throwing it away, giving you back albumin with your cells, and then within 24 hours, your body makes new, fresh, non-toxic, non-inflamed, non-cancerous, non-autoimmune plasma.
Yeah. So you're taking out the plasma, are you taking out the RBCs as well?
Nope, that you give all the cellular components back to the patient
Okay.
with the replacement fluid. In this case, we use
Yeah.
albumin.
Okay. Yep. So you put that albumin back in, and somebody has to eat before they do it.
Yeah, we have to avoid the side effects, because if we're taking out, and when we do a
We
plasma
need to
exchange, we're
rebuild all
taking
that
out
plasma.
we're taking 63% of your plasma out when we do one
Yeah.
exchange. And so that means we're taking 63% of your blood sugar out. So
Mm.
there are certain patients that we can't do plasma exchange on. People, for example, who are on medication to keep them from having seizures, And these are people who have what's called status epilepticus, means if you mess with their level at all, they're going to have a seizure. We
Yeah.
can't do those patients because we're going to mess with medication too. Or people have very bad heart arrhythmias and they're on like medicine like amiodarone. It's a very strong ventricular antiarrhythmic to keep you from having lethal rhythm. We can't do that because we're going to remove everything, the good, bad, and the ugly. But in general, that's a very small percentage of people, and plasma exchange is very safe and effective.
So basically, by pulling out 63% of the plasma, you are taking like a huge load of toxins out of the system.
Yes, we are. And then so MD lifespan, first off, I'm the one who figured out they can use plasma exchange to get toxins out. I mean,
Yeah.
that was my discovery, and we built MD lifespan around that. But also what we did is I got a bunch of the smartest people that I knew in functional medicine together, 26 of us, and we sat down and said, let's design a program of functional medicine around plasma exchange. So it comes, so our program isn't just plasma exchange. Our program is plasma exchange plus a functional medicine
Mm,
approach. So we added avoidance therapy. That's huge. Teaching people how to avoid the toxins. If
for
you're going to
sure.
spend this much money to get the toxins out, let's not put them back in. And matter of fact, they won't come back in unless you put them in. We're 3 years down from our original set of 40 patients. And what we have at this point, the patients today of the original 40 have lower levels of toxins than they did when we ended the procedure 3 years ago. So that
Hmm.
means they keep getting better. It just goes to prove, David, that all these people are so overloaded with these 13,000 plus toxins, and toxins do everything bad, especially to the metabolism and the biochemical pathways. Because as you know, the toxins displace all the nutrients and bind up all the enzymes. So all these different metabolic pathways don't work, including the metabolic pathway for detoxification. So that's one
Yeah.
of the really hideous things about toxins is when you get enough, it breaks down your ability to get rid of the toxins. And David, everybody in the United States has too many.
Oh yeah, we're
Everybody's
all toxic.
toxic system, everybody's so toxic, their detox system is not working.
Yeah. And so when you pull it out with the first plasma exchange, there's a lot of toxins stored in, for example, our fat, right? Our fat cells and
Correct.
whatnot. So you make kind of the first exchange, and then toxins are going to get back into the plasma just from what's already in the body, right?
Correct.
And how often do people get, like on this protocol, how often are
Mhm.
they getting the plasma exchange? Like what
Right.
is kind of the typical protocol? What's safe to do
Sure.
in
And
order to
so
reduce this
so
toxic burden?
we actually studied this. So we took people, we measured their toxins twice at the beginning to make sure that the variance between the tests we were using was very low. So that proved that. Then we did a plasma change. Then we tested their toxins again at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 weeks. And we did this to a whole group of people. And 3 weeks, 5 days is 3 standard deviations away. That's when the toxins re-equilibrate in the plasma. It takes about 4 weeks. So we
Okay.
don't do it except for every 4 weeks, because when we go back to do another round of plasma exchange, I want to get out as many toxins as possible.
Hmm.
Some centers around the United States are doing like 3 or 5 in a week. What we found is your levels go down significantly the 1 week afterwards. And then, and so if you go back and do it within that week, you're not getting that many more toxins. You've got to give the body a chance to re-equilibrate. So speed is not your friend here.
Basically once a month.
Once a month. That's it. But we have patients that are like, well, can I do it every 6 weeks? Can I do it you can, longer is not a problem.
Yeah.
We just don't want to do it shorter
Right.
because we're not getting the biggest bang for the buck. And part of what we do is when our protocol with the avoidance and we had IV nutrients and oral nutrients. Matter of fact, our oral nutrient, I'll send you the label so you can take a look at it. We have 63 different supplements in it, which is kind of crazy. And it's in a powder because that's just, we're not going to give people that many capsules. And as you probably know, it tastes terrible because it's all the B vitamins and glutathione. Luckily, one of our very first patients that we did in the original group of 40 was a retired chef from a major confectioner company I won't name, but a major chef. And they came in and said, I can make this better. And I said, you make this better. I won't charge you for the plasma exchange. And they did. And it was very interesting because what they used was organic wild blueberries,
Hmm.
dried. And that was perfect. So, I mean, it's just as a nutritionist, you understand that some of these supplements can taste terrible. It's not too bad. It's actually pretty good for all the stuff that we have. So, because we added this whole functional medicine approach, and we're including low dose naltrexone and some of the other functional medicines that we use, Our results from plasma exchange on the removal of toxins is 300% better than TPE alone. And TPE alone is 300% better now than every other type of detox, including sweating, um, intermittent fasting. And you can get toxins out that way. I'm not saying you can't. It's just you're not going to get them all, and you're not going to get and it takes a long time, about 18 months to have that be effective.
Yeah. Now, what kind of results are you guys seeing using the plasma exchange?
So it's been one of the most enjoyable times I've been a doctor because um, I mean, so first off, we're seeing incredible reduction in the toxin load. I mean, and we measure a lot of things, including the strength of the immune system through the lymphocytes. So we're doing CD3, CD4, CD8,
Hmm.
CD19, CD56, and we're checking the antibody count, and we're checking a lot of inflammatory and oxidative markers. Just to kind of give you an idea of the blood test,
Yeah.
and we have the 100 toxins that we are measuring as well. We are seeing a significant reduction in the toxins, like 80 to 90% on every toxin. Matter of fact, in our original study, when we were looking at the original results of the patients that we did, and we're looking at the 109 toxins that we did, and every toxin came down at that level. And we were very excited. We were very giddy because we didn't expect it to be that good of a result. But our data scientist was looking at us, you guys are idiots. And I'm like, why are we idiots? He goes, Paul, you just did 109 toxins and they're all coming out in the significantly high level. Therefore, whether you can measure the toxins or not, I can tell you, you've literally got out every toxin, not just the one you measured,
Mm.
all of them. And that was a game changer for us. So what we're seeing is a lot of these, we see a lot of reduction. Matter of fact, we see complete resolution of inflammation on every patient. And that comes back to drive home the point. Inflammation is a toxic disease. Its toxins are the primary cause of it. We're seeing improvement in the immune system. We're seeing less confusion, and in a lot of people, their immune system is suppressed because of all these toxins. It goes up between 25 and 65% on average in people. And then, like I said, all these reductions in the toxins. But the other part of this has been very interesting also because we get people who are very ill and they've been ill for a long time, chronic mold patients. They think they're chronic mold. They are, but everybody has everything, including mold. So I always tell them it's not just
Yeah.
mold. Everybody has everything. So let's talk about you're just a global toxic, or what we call
Yeah.
total toxic burden patient. And so it's been great to watch these people get better for the first time ever in possibly decades. We're seeing people with chronic infections like Lyme's that we're doing. And once you get the toxins out, the immune system now works with you. And we've been able to get a lot of these chronic Lymes converted back to health. So, I mean, we're seeing, the only claim I can make because we published the paper was that we get the toxins down. I mean,
Yeah.
that's accepted, but it's been a lot of enjoyment for us because out of all the patients that we have, we've gotten 5-star reviews from all of them. And everybody's been pleased. Now, with that being said and done, I want to put a little disclaimer here. We're very careful on the patients that we choose because we're doing this in an outpatient setting. So we have 9 centers
Hmm.
nationwide. We'll have 20 by the end of the year. And we don't want to do patients that are so critically ill that they might have problems with the plasma exchange, because those are the patients you need to be wary of. So if people have had those medications, or they had a heart attack or stroke in the last 6 months, or major surgery in the last 6 months, or they're just not able to cooperate with us and sit still in the chair for 4 hours, so like the severe Alzheimer's patients, we just can't do those patients. So it is a little bit of a bias of the patients that we're picking. I'm not trying to say this applies to everybody in the universe. This applies to the people who qualify to do the
Yeah.
plasma
Now, how
exchange
does
in
a
our office.
procedure work? So somebody comes in, right?
Mhm.
You said it's a 4-hour process. They get an IV.
Yep. So the process starts actually by people coming to our website and signing up
Yeah.
to have a call, and they speak to one of our clinicians. And so there's no charge at any point for any of the times or the consults that we do at MD
Hmm.
Lifespan until you decide to purchase a package. So the first thing is just what we call a evaluation stage to make sure that you qualify for plasma exchange, that you understand the price point because it is expensive. and that this is something that we can and want to treat. Then we move them on to a evaluation phase where they upload all their labs, fill out some questionnaires, look at our consent, and our doctors spend time the day before preparing for these evaluations. So we're prepared when we get into this, and we have about an hour with the patient to actually really specifically get into their care, and then be able to put together a customized program for them themselves. So if they move forward with that, then the next thing we do is we typically, if they haven't had done, we do a lot of lab testing, both blood and urine, for the toxins and inflammation, because the proof in the procedure is looking at the results. So they get through all that, and they've read all the videos, watched all the videos, and read all the paperwork, and they start learning about the avoidance therapy. So now you're showing up for the day of your exam, or your day of your procedure. It's about a 4-hour procedure. You'll be greeted by our staff. I'm happy to report all of our nurses are ultrasound trained, guided IV nurses. So they've had at least 5 years of ultrasound guided training, and we haven't missed an insertion of an IV. Even when people say I have the worst veins ever, we've not missed, because we have the nurses, and that's a big bonus, because a lot of people don't have these kind of nurses, so they're just kind of going around in the dark and trying to get these very large needles into these very little veins without ultrasound. But once you come in, and we just make sure your paperwork's in order, and we go through the checklist. Everybody has a daily checklist. Did you eat? Did you not take your medicine? And we just want to make sure. And if I didn't eat, well, then go eat and come back, because we'll do it. They have to check all the lists off. And then we do a weight, and we measure their hematocrit by poking their finger. And if you're female who's under 50, we check for you, make sure you're not pregnant. Not that you can do plasma exchange pregnant women, we just don't want to. And so once you have that, we get an IV in one arm, and we get the IV in the other. So one arm is the IV's blood coming out and going in the machine, and the machine separates it. Then we throw the plasma away, and we give you back your cells with albumin. It takes about 2 hours to do what we call a full exchange. And then after that, we give you, in most cases, some immunoglobulin, and we give you some IV nutrients. It has a lot of things in it, because we just took a lot of stuff out, and we have the IV, and let's get you started right back in. But the other thing is, as you often said, you got to reboot the system. I mean, these toxins have depleted. You said if people are nutrient depleted, the toxins make you nutrient depleted. Like mercury replaces magnesium, and then you lose all your magnesium store. So by the time you get the mercury out, your magnesium, that's why everybody's magnesium deficiency, because of the way the toxins have bumped all these nutrients out. So we take the advantage of it, and we give the IV. We might give exosomes and stem cells to certain patients at certain parts in their procedure. And then the nurses are going over them with their instructions for the next 30 days, just make sure, and they get their powder that they go home with, and we make sure they got understanding of the avoidance things that we want to see, that they start getting a water filter. I mean, if anybody is watching your podcast, they can go to our website at MD Lifespan, and under About Us, there's guidebooks, and they're all downloaded for free. I mean, it's about how do you clean your air, your water, your food, the chemicals in your house. Cosmetics are a huge problem for women. We have a guidebook for babies. We have a guidebook that talks about all these different apps that we have now to say what's free, toxin free, and not. And then we also have a new brochure, because we've been partnered with Dr. Jill Carnahan. So we have a new mold guidebook for the people that specifically starts addressing things about mold. And that's how the whole procedure works.
Yeah, I think that's great. It's really, really cutting edge. Now, basically, for the average person, layperson out there that wants to get this therapy done, the best place for them to go would be mdlifespan.com. Now, how about for the practitioner? What if there are practitioners out there that are interested in offering this therapy? How do they go about getting involved with MD Lifespan, or utilizing it in their own clinic?
Yeah. So we have 9 locations now nationwide. About half of them are inside compounding pharmacy, and the other half are inside clinician offices. So referring physicians can contact us. There's a specific place there, and they can go to the email from me, or we have an info email as well. But we'll contact them, because there's a lot of different layers that we can work. First off, sometimes a physician, and this is pretty frequent, they just want to talk to us to understand what we just talked about, the procedure, how it works for the patient, what participation they have. And because at MD Lifespan, we're only doing this period. Our competitors do this and other things, or they do this
Hmm.
and functional medicine. So a lot of the functional medicine docs like, I don't want to send it to them because they got functional medicine docs there. And, and I understand that. So we stay in our lane. We're just doing this. Once we're done, we want to return it to the clinician. But now we're returning a patient to the clinician where therapies previously might not have worked will
Mm.
work because the
Yeah.
toxins were blocking everything, the inflammation was blocking everything. We have other levels of engagement. We have some clinicians become medical advisors to us because, we have the top toxicologists, the top lipidologists, the top neurologists, throughout the country, and they're on our medical advisory board. And we, not only do they refer patients to us, but they help us with our research. We have 27 medical advisors at this point at MD Lifespan. Then there's another group of doctors who have relatively sizable reach. For example, like yourself, that also have a practice. And we put our one of our locations in their office because they have such a reach throughout the network. So
Hmm.
there's a lot of different ways that we work with clinicians. We want to be there for them and for their patients. We want to provide a service for them that they don't need to do in their office. Because most of the time, I would say to do this well, David, you have to do a lot of these. And the team has to be somebody who's done, we do 2 a day, every day for the last
Yeah.
3 years. Because you don't want, the typical adverse reaction rate for TPE is 6%. Our adverse reaction
Hmm.
rate is less than 1%. And I tell people all the time, if you're not used to doing this every day, it's an expensive procedure as well. The equipment alone is about $250,000.
Yeah. So obviously it costs you guys a lot, but you guys are doing it regularly. So you've got a lot of experience with it,
Yeah.
which reduces the amount of potential complications that take place with it. And obviously you screen out people too to make sure that higher risk patients are not obviously not going to get the therapy. So that way, that you don't have more complications with it. So that's great. Now,
Well,
what you said
and
you have
right now
nine locations.
I'm sorry, what?
You said you had 9 locations as
Yeah.
well. Where are they, and then where else are you looking to build locations?
So we're outside New York, Detroit, Chicago, Orlando, Sarasota, Houston, Mesa, Arizona, and Colorado, and right near Denver. We're coming out more in the West Coast. We'll be having a couple places in LA, San Diego, and we have a couple other places coming up in New York, Washington D.C., North Carolina. So we're spreading it around the country. We're just finding the best matches for our locations.
Yeah, yeah, makes
But
sense. Now,
like I
where?
said, we already have 13 more centers ready to go up this year, and we already have 50 more centers that we've qualified um, that are kind of like in a holding pattern as we get these next 13 up and running.
For sure, for sure. So you got a big team there trying to kind of basically get this out and get into
Yeah,
all the major cities.
yeah, we've grown from 3 people to 38 people in a little over 2 years.
Yeah, well, great. Well, obviously, it's credit to the success of the therapy.
Yeah,
And so, where do you see that? Where do you see the future of functional medicine and longevity medicine going, and utilizing plasma exchange?
I love this question. Thank you for asking. This is a great
Yeah.
question. Matter of fact, last week I just returned from Washington, D.C., where we were invited by the administration to come in and talk about plasma exchange and the toxicity that
Mm,
exists in the United States. It's kind of interesting on hearing some of their comments, but they are aware that we have a problem going on here.
yeah.
So the answer to your question is, I see this going to traditional medicine, and I see functional medicine coming with it to traditional medicine. That's our goal. Matter of fact, the mission behind MD Lifespan is to drive this into so insurance pays for a good pair, get the price down first. And we've been
Yeah.
successful at lowering the prices over 30% in the last 3 years. And our goal, since MD Lifespan is a public benefit corporation, which means our goal is the mission, not the finances. Of course, we want to be profitable, but we're not sacrificing the mission. And our mission is to be able to detect and eliminate toxins in the public. And that means everybody,
Yeah.
which means we're going to have to drive this into the insurance models. And so that somewhere down the road here, David, and I'm not talking about decades down the road, you're going to have an AFRI center in every cardiology office. You're going to have it in
Mm,
every gynecologist office. You're going to have it in obstetrics office, rheumatology, cardiology, oncology. These are all things that are if not caused by, accelerated by these toxins. And there's enough of these people. We've been using this on people with cognitive issues. It clears it up. We use it on people with autoimmune issues. It makes their autoimmune disease better to manage. But my favorite ones are all the toxic patients, the chronic
Yeah.
fatigues and the mold toxic, and they've been through everything and they can't budge. And I used to have patients like that before I made this discovery, and it'd be difficult because you treat them with anything, like even just a little bit of a binder, and they just react so violently. I mean, you've had those
Yeah.
type of clients. This is the first time these people are getting better, and
Mm.
their numbers are, I mean, and you can bring joy back to their life when they finally get at least a little bit of hope, understanding that this can work. Because it's not a matter if plasma exchange removes toxins. It does. It's a question of how many exchanges do you need to remove enough of them
Right.
so that you get back on your feet again. And the answer to that question is usually 5, but some of the more severe patients, it may be 8. But,
Okay. So
again,
you're
we're
seeing
3 years,
most people
we're 3 years
getting a
out, and
lot
nobody's
better
had to get
within,
another one of that.
you find that most people are getting better within 5 to 8
Yep.
sessions.
Yep.
Yep.
And we have some people that get away with 3,
Yeah.
but the by far the most ones that we recommend and the best results we see for people is around the 5 mark.
Yeah. That's great. And then from there, what would be like a maintenance plan? So if let's say they did 5, let's say they did 6 months, once a month, right? For 6 months, felt significantly better. Toxic burden was down. Then what would be a typical maintenance plan from there?
So we have a maintenance plan that we give people, and we want them to get a functional medicine doctor after we're done, because
Yeah.
you've just learned how to get all these toxins
Yeah.
out. If you don't have a
Reduce
functional medicine
exposure.
doctor,
Right.
we so another way we work with physicians is, in all the cities that we have patients that come to see us and are like, I've never heard of this before. How do I find a functional medicine? We want to be able to refer to the best docs in the area, because
Yeah.
we want them to get that up and going. But our maintenance program is simply the avoidance therapy. We
Yeah.
have 3 years of data now that shows that's what you need to do. Now,
Mm.
nutrients, supplements, intermittent fasting, all that stuff, absolutely,
Yeah.
I recommend people do that, because that just adds on to your overall health, including limiting the toxins and be able to help your own detox pathways work better. But the key, the magic, is the avoidance program. That's why I tell
Yeah.
everybody, whether you get plasma exchange or don't, go read the guidebooks, do that. We have 3 years of data that shows those guidebooks work, that you can keep the toxins out. And if you're not overloaded, the vast majority of people aren't significantly overloaded. I mean, everybody's 13,000 plus, but they can still detox. People do very well with the avoidance therapy. It just takes longer to get the toxins out, but your body can do it if it has the majority of the detox pathways working. But after we get the plasma exchange done, we've not had to do another plasma exchange on any patient yet for 3 years, because
That's
the
great.
levels today are actually lower than they were when we finished the procedure. It's so the body is able to start healing itself, as it were.
Yeah, this is really remarkable stuff, and I definitely I'm happy we're having this conversation. I definitely want to learn more about it, guys. If you're like me, you're intrigued, you want to learn more, go to mdlifespan.com. mdlifespan.com. That's Dr. Paul Savage's company that uses the plasma exchange therapy. You can find out where their clinics are located. You can find out how you can become a patient and get this therapy. If you are a practitioner, also you can find out how you can refer some of your challenging clients to get this therapy. And let's all learn together. Let's all explore together with mdlifespan.com. So, Dr. Paul, this has been really, really good. Any last words of inspiration here for our audience?
Yeah, 2 things. You don't know what you don't measure, right?
Yeah.
Find a functional medicine doctor or go to our website and get a toxin test. It's amazing how many people that we have huge amounts of toxins and they aren't aware of it. And again, because it's the interplay between the toxins and your DNA, right? It's always what the DNA holds as the cards that the toxins are playing off. And so some people can tolerate a lot of toxins, but that doesn't mean that long-term it's going to be good for them. It's not. So go get measured. I mean, that's just what you have to do. The second thing is, do the avoidance guidelines, download them. They're free. And they're not expensive, and they're simple things that you can do, but it's not a little bit. I mean, there's a lot, because believe it or not, the most dangerous place with toxins in the environment is your home.
Hmm.
That's where you have but we have ways of making that a safe zone for you. And you do
Yeah.
that and you save, not only saving yourself, but you're saving your friends and your families, and your children and your loved ones. I mean, this. I cannot be more adamant that you must do that.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to clean up your environment, have as toxin free environment as possible, although it's fully impossible to be completely toxin free, but our body knows how to handle a certain amount of toxins we're going to adapt to. The more we can reduce our exposure, the better. And then we want to do things to help build our natural resilience, getting good movement in, exercise, intermittent fasting, getting sun exposure, getting really good quality sun exposure, infrared sauna, or also getting cold therapy, like cold showers or a cold plunge and things like that. All that builds resilience and your ability to adapt to stress. And so all these things work together. But like you were talking about, there's so many people that are they're overburdened by their toxin load, right? By their toxic burden. And because of that, they can't adapt. And this is where this plasma exchange therapy comes in and really just dramatically reduces that toxic load. So then they can just go about their life, have the energy to go out and start moving, exercising, and doing the things that we just talked about to optimize their health and their vitality. So again, really, really good stuff. mdlifespan.com is the website, guys. Check that out. Again, Dr. Paul Savage, thanks so much for your time. We'll see y'all on a future interview. Everybody be blessed.